Uh, Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining BBB's weekly webinar. We call them Trust Talks. We use our trusted advisors to provide information to help you as a small business owner adapt and continue to move forward as we navigate the unknown, and the unknown being our economic conditions, our conditions with our current customers, and that of our future. So thank you so much. Our interest today was to give you some tools to help you focus on social media for yourself, how to improve, enhance, and strengthen your ability to navigate the uncharted waters of social media. And I say that because social media it moves more quickly than anything I know of, but also social media, digital marketing, all of the aspects of getting your brand, your mission, your name out. It has changed so much because we want to adapt to the current times. So I cannot thank you enough. Today we have the Chief Creative Officer of Red Start Creative. Rebecca, I've had the pleasure of knowing Rebecca for, I'm going to guess 7-8 years. I know her to be a strong business leader. She is incredibly growth conscious, has made great strides in her business, growing the number of employees, the number of clients. Her heart is really in helping businesses promote positive change, to promote their impact in the community, to highlight their good and what they do. And so she's very mission oriented in her approach in working with the business community and the nonprofit community alike. So Rebecca, thank you. We're so proud to have you part of our BBB community. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm going to turn it over to you to begin today's activities.
Thank you, Angie. That was so nice. And again, it's been awesome getting to know Angie over the years. And I just think you all have done such a wonderful job. You've done such a wonderful job showing, giving all these resources to people in this time. And what I love is I've seen, everybody jumping up to step in and share their knowledge. Today's topic is one of my favorite things to talk about, digital marketing, and a huge component of that is social media. And so we're going to give you a broad overview of digital marketing, and then we're going to jump in and not only talk about social media and why it works and what its purpose is, but actually tell you how to do it. I think a lot of webinars and a lot of educational things will tell you why it's important, but nobody tells you exactly how to do it. So the goal for today, and I think it might have been in some of the promotional materials, is to listen in on today's webinar and give yourself 2 to 3 hours over the next week while this is fresh in your mind and work through the worksheets that we have. Social media and digital marketing, yes, you can elevate it and you can do so many analytic and data-driven things with it, but the first step is just being consistent and showing up. And so that's what this is. That's what we call it, Digital Marketing 101, is to help you develop a content strategy, to help you show up and be consistent, which is now more important than ever. So I'm going to skip through all these lovely intro slides. So here are our objectives for today. So we're going to talk about what makes up a digital marketing strategy. We're going to talk about how that is web, email, and social. We're going to brainstorm content ideas, because I think content ideas, sometimes people aren't sure where to start. We're going to talk about what are the 1 to 2 platforms for social media that your organization should be on, how to set those up or update those, determine goals, content categories, and content, and then out of that, come up with an idea for a 12-month calendar. So, and you can see this is a very long presentation. It's 74 slides. I am not going to give you the detail on every single slide today. I've included a lot of slides here because I want you to see the data that backs up why social media works. And I think it's really important. So I'll do some broad strokes, but I really like having the information so you can see where that has come from. So I just want you to think today, we've got a lot of people on the call today. Do you have a digital marketing strategy for your organization, and what makes that up? How many people in your organization are contributing to it? Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 5? And how do you feel about that? So think a little bit about your goals and some of the things that you really want to learn. And I think that would be the one question, if you all want to chime in on the chat and say, what are you looking forward to learning today? So we can make sure we touch base on that. And again, I love the chat feature in webinars. I want to be able to stop. I want to be able to address questions. That's why we definitely made this a little bit of a longer lunchtime to go about an hour and a half today, just to make sure we have time for questions. So very simply, digital marketing is how your web, email, and your social work together. And it's really important that you think about how they work together, that they're not just standing in silos, but they all work together. And it's anchored by good content. Content is the key when it comes to digital marketing. Now, that might seem overwhelming, going, Rebecca, what? I have to update content on my website, and I have to do an email, and I have to do social media. We're going to talk about today how to brainstorm that content, how to develop it, but also how to repurpose it. So overall, if you're only here for the first 5 minutes of this webinar and this is what you get, this is really very important. You want to make sure you're doing at least 1 to 2 new pieces of content to your website each month, because that's showing Google it's a healthy site and it's relevant content. For social media, you want to pick 1 channel and be consistent with that, and you want to post 3 to 4 times a week. And then you want to do a monthly or a bi-monthly email that's going to link people back to the content on your website and your social posts. So again, that's the overview of how these things work together. And I have a little chart here just to show you what that looks like. So if you take a look here, if you are updating your content twice a month, so we've got this blue color here, you're updating that all along. You've got 1 email a month that you're doing, and all along you're doing social media. You can see how all of those channels are laying over each other to make sure you're consistently communicating. One day somebody might catch your email, another day they might catch a social post, and the whole idea is the email and the social posts are driving people back to your website. Written content. So again, you want to make sure you're updating your written content on your website. And here's the thing, you want to make sure, what is that policy? What are those guidelines for what should and should not go on your website? And a way to do that is you can always go back and look at your sitemap or the categories on your site, but have a clear idea of where the content is going and how it is approved. So a content policy is really important. And you can also generate an editorial calendar, which we're going to go through how to come up themes for the year to come up with content. So you don't always have to write this content on your own. You can also curate content from other websites as well. So you can write original content, which we're going to talk about brainstorming on that. But you can also curate content from other sites. So if you're reading regularly in your industry and you're seeing articles, probably lots of articles, right? How your industry might be adapting to the current environment, you can post that link. So you can do 100 to 200 words introducing the article, why you think that's important, and then the intro to that and linking out to that site. So it shows you're a thought leader. It can open up some relationships. So that is really very important to do. And it's a great way that you're not having to write a 400 to 500 to 600 word article for your website. I want to show you guys really quickly over here after this. I'm gonna also walk you through the worksheets as we're doing this. So repurposing existing content. Here's the other thing. Your organization might already be coming up with other content, whether it's in sales proposals, if you're writing for grants, if you're writing, copy for a print piece. Look at what you're doing and how can you repurpose that. To give an example, for Red Start, I'm speaking a lot. So we actually refer back, we update this presentation often, but we'll refer back to this presentation that's already written, and we'll take information out of it, and that will become a blog article for our website. Also, again, that goes with employee generated content as well. It could even be Are you writing in job descriptions, right? Cultural of the organization. There's a lot of places. So look at where you have content already being developed in the organization and see where you can repurpose that. So after you brainstorm this, let me just double check. I'm gonna use the following worksheet. All right, going back. Okay, so I want to show you these worksheets really quick over here. So right here, we have a monthly theme schedule. And this is a great way to brainstorm content. So this is on page 6 of the worksheets. So think about what are some industry themes that are going on that are going on right now. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about COVID-19. That's really important. But are there other things that are thematic in your industry? What are different relevant dates? So this is a great way if you use sheet 6 and 7 to go ahead and brainstorm about content for the year and just some ideas. So once you are brainstorming these, you actually have rough ideas for the entire year. And then you can go in and you can use that to assign content for people to write. Again, remember who's going to review it, how's it going to be written, and who will have the final approval, and what's the turn time, because that's really very important. So this just gives you an idea on those worksheets. All right, and that's social content creation. All right, so we kind of went over the web portion of it, right? So part 1 is web, and you're doing 1 to 2 new pieces of content. So again, I went through here really quickly, but what you want to do is brainstorm monthly themes, look at existing content you might have already within your organization, determine how can you repurpose that into a news or a blog article, how can you curate content from another source and give your input. And that's going to help you come up with those 1 to 2 new pieces of content a month. And the reason that's important, if some of you tuned in to the marketing webinar last week, there was a lot of conversation about SEO. Well, writing new content for your website that's relevant to your audience is organic SEO. It means you're not paying anybody, but you're writing consistently good content so people can find you online, and that's going to help you with Google. So again, that's the difference between organic. That's the difference between organic SEO and paid SEO. So social media, I'm guessing that's the reason a lot of people are here today. So social media, this is what I'm going to do a little bit of an intro, and then we're really going to dig into this DIY portion. But we refer to, we use a program called Sprout Social. They have a wonderful report they release every year in the spring. Actually, the report on 2018, which was just released last week or the week before. And we refer to those because they're actually doing research and analytics about social media. And their report about 2 years ago said, hey, guess what, everybody? The official 1.0 of social media is over. We've entered the second phase of social media, and you need to be there. If you are a business, if you're a nonprofit organization, and you need to have a presence on social media. And so part of it is, what are you supposed to do with that? And a lot of conversations, many of you probably remember in the early days of social media, was how can I tie social media to a direct sale? And so what the research has shown is that social media is not a direct sales tool. Social media is for the awareness and consideration stages of the sales funnel. And I think this is really, really important for business owners. In order to make that end sale, people need to, 1, know who you are, and 2, consider doing business with you. And social media is one of the best ways to reach people. You can measure your reach, you can use analytics, you can do all of these things. And the goal of social is people are getting to know you, you're building a relationship, and social media is driving traffic back to that excellent content you have on that website. And a well-functioning website is there to move them along to whatever the next phase of the sales funnel is. So once people know about you and they're thinking about you, they might go to your website a couple times, but when they get to your website, think about how are you going to capture what you want them to do next? Do you want them to call to schedule a consultation? Do you want them to make an online purchase? So think about that, because social media has tremendous reach. It's a very powerful tool, and it really can help you in that awareness and consideration stages of the funnel, and you can measure it with analytics. So again, expanded awareness is ROI when it comes to social media. So if you are watching your engagement numbers go up, and we're going to talk about what engagement means in a little bit, not just your likes, then it is doing its job. More and more people are becoming aware of who you are and what you do. Okay, so a little bit here. This is just a little bit, again, this is great information from the Sprout Social report. 70% of marketers say their biggest goal with social is to increase awareness. So people know who you are, so you can do business with them. And 59% are using social to support their sales and lead generation objectives. So this is a report. Again, Sprout Social did this along with Pew Research. There's a ton of data in these reports. I've linked to the reports on the resource tab at the very end of this. So you all, if you want to download those and do a deep dive, I'm just kind of doing some high level information on you. So challenges. So developing, how are you supposed to develop strategies? How are you supposed to understand your audience? How are you supposed to publish content? So if you're having those challenges, you are not alone. Here is something that's really important. In the last 6 months alone, 44% of consumers reported an increase in their personal use of social media platforms. And this was from the report that was released last year. The report from this year had even higher numbers. So you can see it's only going up in usage. And I think it's really important, because whether you're the owner, whether you're somebody on the team at a business, it's really important to have these facts and this data to back up as to why you should be spending your time on social media and what you should do. And again, the data really supports it. So here's how you can define engagement when you're measuring success. So comments and shares are the two biggest things you want to think about. It's no longer just about the likes. So you want to think about, how are you going to generate comments, shares, or retweets, and how are you going to have a conversation with your customers? So jumping into the platforms. So these are kind of an overview of kind of 5 that's in a lot of conversation right now that are used for businesses. So we've got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Twitter. Facebook is still far and away the big dog in the room. Despite a lot of the controversies they've had over the last few years, Facebook is still the predominant platform for people. For businesses, it depends on your business where you should be. So we probably have a wide variety of businesses on the call here today. If you are a B2C business, so if you're business to consumer, you want to look at Facebook and you want to look at Instagram. Those are 2 really great platforms to look at. If you are in B2B, LinkedIn is a place where you should be. So you want to think about, where's the first place you should be and what's the second place you should be. We still, even if you're B2B, we still recommend having a presence on Facebook. And I know sometimes this is a little controversial for people, because they say, well, I'm on Facebook for personal. Well, here's what's really interesting. Facebook groups has grown tremendously over the years. So I can tell you right now, I am in multiple professional groups on Facebook that I am commenting, posting in on a daily basis. So that's where people are engaging. So I am in, I think, 4 business owner groups, and I am in 4, we do a lot of work with nonprofits. So I'm in 3 to 4 nonprofit groups. So Facebook knows that about me. So when they're targeting me and they know the content I like to see, they know a lot about me. So yes, Facebook tends to be a personal platform, but people are also engaging in groups in professional ways. So I'm going to give a little bit of a data on here. I gave a little bit of an overview. Again, these are the report just came out like last week, so I haven't had a chance to update it from this year, but this just gives you an overview. I'm going to give you an overview of Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, I think, and possibly LinkedIn. But it just gives you a little bit of an overview when you're thinking about where you want your platform to be. There's some generalities, But if you know the demographics of your client base, that's really helpful as well. So for example, when we're working with a nonprofit, we're typically recommending that they're on Facebook. If they're looking for individual donors, that they're on Facebook and Instagram, because Instagram is primarily women, and they tend to be philanthropic drivers of the household. If they are a nonprofit looking for corporate sponsorships, we recommend that they are on LinkedIn because of those conversations. So you can see Facebook skews slightly female, but it's not too far off being in the middle ground. When you're looking at income levels run a little bit lower on Facebook than they do on Instagram or Twitter. Again, 2.27 billion monthly active users. Again, if you needed a stat to show you, and this is a joke that I always love to share here. There are people, you have these friends, oh, I'm not on Facebook. Guess what? They actually probably are on Facebook. They might just not be a regular user, but there are a tremendous amount of people that are on Facebook. Instagram is a platform that has had tremendous growth. So they also, in the last few years, they have their Instagram stories. Instagram stories has 400 million daily active users. That is a lot of people. And Instagram stories are those little circles at the top of your feed where it's usually video or text or funny pictures. People are adding GIFs. That's an extremely powerful tool that should not be overlooked when you are using Instagram. Instagram does skew slightly younger, so 59% is 18 to 29-year-olds, but they're still 30 to 49 is still 33%. So that middle range there, you're going to have a lot of people there. You have a higher medium income on Instagram. LinkedIn. I love to talk about LinkedIn because when we were back up on that percentage, it was 25%. A couple of years ago, it was 18%. And I'm going to tell you that 25% is a highly engaged group on LinkedIn. There are lots and lots of conversations happening on LinkedIn, and it is a really great place to be, and it's an extremely powerful tool. So Twitter has seen a lot of flattening of growth over the last few years. You may have heard in the news. It was a powerhouse. It's had some internal issues. But here's what's happened with Twitter. It's become a leading platform for customer service. That's a really great way to engage on there. A lot of people have done that. It's very heavy in the news cycle for sure. And then also for conferences or daily events is another, when we used to go to in-person conferences, it's very powerful for that. So that's just something to make a note there. Again, Twitter has a higher medium income than Facebook. So that's a general overview. I want to pause. So we've talked about, just to summarize, we've talked about web content, we've talked about social media being for awareness and consideration. We've gone over some of the stats as to why it works, and we've talked over some of the specific platforms. Does anybody have any questions on what platform they should be on, or any questions about the platforms we've talked about so far?
And I'll monitor the chat box while we wait. I'll also check the email here.
Okay, great.
I actually personally had a question just when you were talking about statistics and analytics. I don't know if you have any recommendations on like key metrics to monitor when you're reviewing your Facebook analytics tool, your Twitter analytics tool. Is there one specific or a handful of specific metrics that you would monitor, set sort of a priority to monitor over others?
So I would really look at, and so this is Digital Marketing 101, and we actually have a Digital Marketing 202 where we get really in depth in that. But I would say you really want to be looking at your engagement, you want to be looking at your reach, and you want to be looking at the comments. So like, just as an example, if you're posting in Facebook and you can tag a location, you can tag somebody else and ask a question and have comments on that, that's the most powerful post you're going to get, because everybody in your feed has the potential to see it. I'll say potential. and everybody in that other person's feed has the potential to see it as well. So I think that's a really great way to do it. Also, posing very simple questions, not very difficult questions, but very simple questions that can elicit a response from people, and making sure you're monitoring that conversation. And you'll see the more conversation there is in that post, the more often there is potential for people to see it. That's about the simplest way I can break down the Facebook algorithm.
Awesome, thank you. Let's see, we actually got a question from Jessica. She's asking, driving web traffic via Instagram seems much harder than other channels. So engagement via comments is easy, but how do you get people to jump over to your site?
That's a good one. Hey, Jessica, how are you? So I'm going to go over that in a little bit, but we use a tool called Linktree, because in your bio for Instagram, you only get one web address, right? And what if over the last week you've talked about a blog entry, a service you've done, and one other thing? So we love Linktree as a platform. So people click on it and they have the option of the different places to go. So it actually makes it much easier for people to click over to your site. So that's a really great question. So keep the questions coming in the chat. Again, I want to make sure I'm going quick enough that we cover the information, but not too fast that people can jump in and ask questions and this is absorbing really well. So when we're getting started on social media, I'm going to scroll back up here to this site. Oh, there it is. I was on the wrong page of the worksheet. So this is the worksheet for the first worksheet in the packet, is everything we just talked about content. What are the blogs, the publications you're doing? What are the topics? What are the journal articles? You can use all of this to generate ideas for web content and actually schedule out for a year the blog schedule. So we've got everything that I talked about plug into this worksheet, and then you can have a rough idea of your themes and your blog schedule for the year. This is for social media. So this is a great way to go in before you jump in and answer all these questions. Do you have a strategy? What are all the channels that you're on? How often are you using it right now? Just kind of doing a little bit of an audit, and then going in and determining where you want to be. And I'll tell you, the thing with social media is you want to show up and you want to be consistent. So you don't want to spread yourself too thin and say, we're going to be on 5 different social media channels. We are a digital marketing company and we are primarily posting to 3 channels. And then on some other channels, we have some content that just goes through from the other one. So you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. However, you do want to grab your name or those avatars. So for example, we are not regularly posting on YouTube or Pinterest, but there is a Red Start YouTube channel that has some content, and there is a Red Start Pinterest channel that has some content. So it is on there, and we have secured those URLs. So you want to think about where's your audience spending their time, set aside time to work on them, pick one channel, get consistent, and then consider a second one. If you think you can do 2, that's great. But again, we don't want you to overdo it. Keep in mind your visual brand, right? You want to keep in mind that what your social media looks like is what your website looks like, as to what your print materials look like as well. So you want to keep that in mind. You want to kind of use that same little icon across all your channels. So I'm not going to go into every single detail on these pages, but this is great specifics on how to set up your Facebook and how to set up your Instagram. And so make sure you have the name as close to your organizational name as you can. So we have Red Start Creative just about everywhere. Make sure you're using high resolution logos, quality images. Make sure you're filling out all of the features, and every now and again go in and take a look, because especially Facebook will prompt you on that, and it will say, do you want to fill out this section? For example, the brand photos have been added in the last 2 years. So if you set your Facebook page up 4 to 5 years ago, you may not have added this section with the 10 to 20 brand photos. Make sure your hours, your phone number, your website, all of those things are accurate, and you want to fill out everything in there. This is a link, if you have not set up already, how you could have facebook.com/the name of your organization. that'll give you a tip there. Again, you want to fill out all the details. Here on Instagram, you want to make sure your Instagram is a business page. It's much better now when you set it up. It asks you those questions. But when you first did Instagram, again, if your Instagram account is older for your organization, it may be a personal page. And so when you make it a business page, you can link it to Facebook because Facebook owns Instagram, and you can get insight on both platforms. So that's really very important. And again, here you go. Instagram is very hard on very short bios. There's not a lot of room there. Who you are, what you do, why you do it. Very short and sweet. Use your link tree, and you can click on your link tree, and then you can add more links in the bio. Let me see. I'll actually pull up if I can. I'm going to just try to pull up and see. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to our Red Start page, and I'm just going to show you what our link tree looks like. So if you can see my little face bubble, you can just see it's just a batch of links, and you can customize the background. But again, it's a great way for people to go ahead and engage. Again, fill out all the details. We're going to talk a little bit more about hashtags as we go further down. No need to put hashtags in your bio. And also make sure you have a phone number to secure your Instagram account. So if you lose the password or something like that, it does require a cell phone for you to go ahead and do that. And that's also a note on Facebook. Make sure you have multiple admins on your Facebook page. You know, so if somebody moves on to a different position or something like that, you don't lose access to your accounts.
We actually had a sorry
yeah.
about that. We actually had a question come in from Tammy that's kind of on topic with what you're talking about. If you're posting on multiple platforms, does it matter where you start? So she asks, you know, should she prioritize Instagram over Facebook, over Twitter? Where's a good starting point for Tammy?
So Tammy, I would absolutely prioritize where you think your audience will be the most. And so take a look at those earlier slides where it has the demographics, and take a look at that and have an idea of where your ideal client spends their time. And that should be your primary platform. So you can absolutely post on more than one, but I would determine if there's one, you know, if there's one to pick the top priority and then have the others. And you also want to shift your content a little bit. And we're going to talk about that when we get that to content. But Facebook, you're going to have a little more text on Facebook. Instagram is going to be much more visually heavy with less content, and you're going to use hashtags there. LinkedIn, you might be posting, you know, articles on there. You might be using the feature in LinkedIn to post articles. So, and some content you might post on Instagram, you may not post on LinkedIn. So typically when we're posting, we'll post similar content on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. It'll just be formatted slightly differently. However, if it's something like really silly, we're not going to put that over on LinkedIn, and we'll come up for an alternate that day, so we're still posting on there. Speaking of posting, scheduling is really important. So again, we're having conversations here. We're talking about being on 3 different platforms. We're talking about different types of content. There are really great, they call them aggregators. So there's places where you can actually take all of your content and you can post it on multiple platforms from one source, and you can actually look at your analytics there as well. So if you are going to do more than one channel, and if you're going to be posting 3 to 5 times a week, I would absolutely look at getting one of these programs. Facebook, you can directly schedule in Facebook within the program. But what's really great is Instagram does not have a scheduling feature, but Instagram, you can schedule that through third parties. So you can use, we love Sprout Social, so I'll show you guys a couple of samples of that. You can schedule it through Hootsuite, and you can also schedule it through later.com. So again, there's a lot of different ways you can schedule it. And you want to keep in mind when you're scheduling with Instagram, you can schedule on Instagram and have that go through to Facebook. I know some people do that. you want to make sure the accounts are connected and that you're an admin. So you certainly can do that. Again, just a little bit of an overview. Both Hootsuite is free, but I think it's very limited. It also has a trial basis. Sprout Social has a trial basis. There's also Icona Square. So those are all different things. I'm going to give you guys just a sneak peek at Sprout Social. And they have been, I will tell you, they've been really great on pricing with us because we do work with a lot of nonprofits and small businesses. They understand we're not working with giant companies. And so they've been really good on a much lower price per channel for our clients. So this gives you an overview. Again, this is an aggregator. So we can look, and this is Red Start, and we can see in list view here on Wednesday, we've got a Facebook post, we've got an Instagram. On Friday, we've got a Facebook and we have a Twitter. So we can see it this way. We can also look at it this way and we can say, okay, great. On all of these days, we have 4 posts scheduled on these different platforms. And you can actually click in and look at it. You can have it in a scheduled format and you can also have it in a draft format. So again, you can draft it, you can collaborate on it, you can edit it, you can proof it, you can do all of those things, and then you can schedule it to post. So that's why I do recommend, I know a lot of people also use Hootsuite as well. I love the analytics that come out of Sprout Social. So kind of like Clay was talking about, like when you're looking at your analytics, Sprout Social is going to pull those really important ones to the top for you and help you generate those reports. So now we're going to jump into, like, let's do this, right? Let's get a social strategy. And this is really where I think the most powerful part of the worksheets are. So we've picked our audience, we've done our setup. And again, this worksheet, all of those things I went through, go down this checklist and just, you may have already done it, but it's a great tool just for a tune-up to go in and make sure you've done all of these things. And then we're going to talk about content and we're going to talk about goals. So I know everybody talks about SMART goals in all aspects of life, but I think it's really, really important to get the most benefit investing your time in social media is to make sure you have SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based. I love the attainable one. I think that's really, really important for this. You don't want to say you want to grow your reach by 500% in 1 month, right? That's a little bit unrealistic. So you might want to say you are going to post consistently 3 times a week for the next 3 months. You might say you are looking to increase your engagement by 10%. Those are all different ways you can do that. And again, we have this worksheet over here where you can go ahead and work on this. So you want to talk about your goal, you want to talk about your posting strategy. And those are really great. Talk about those goals with whoever has input on social media. Talk about those goals, you know, maybe with your sales team, because again, your goal is to be the awareness and consideration part of the sales funnel. So talking about what those goals could be with others in the organization is a great way to go. Audience. So defining your audience for each of your social goals, I think, is really important. So is this for one audience? Is it for multiple? What does your target audience sound like? I think that's really important too. Tone of voice. One of the most wonderful things, and I say this because I know there are a lot of difficult things that have come out of social media, but one of the most wonderful things that I think has come out of social media is that people have almost demanded more transparency and more authenticity for organizations. If you were to look at a website 10 to 15 years ago, it was buttoned up. It was, unless you're in the creative industry, that's a disclaimer. The creative industry was doing crazy websites in the late 90s with all sorts of flash and different things. But most business websites were very buttoned up. They were, you know, posed stock photos. They were pages upon pages of text. They were, you weren't always seeing photos of teams. You know, there were a lot of different things in there. And what social media has done is the audience wants to know who you are, it wants to know who your employees are, and it wants to know who the faces are behind people doing business. And so I think social media's influence is we've seen more of that culture and that personality on websites across the board, which is really very important. And so when we get into content, we're going to talk about that. And there's a really great survey, again, that people wanted, honesty and transparency in those communications. So again, that tone of voice is so important. Post strategy outline, what platform, how much, and what time. And to be clear, what we're talking about here is you're setting this up for a set period of time. You're going to do it, and you're going to evaluate it, and then you're going to make shifts. So we're going to talk about that. 3 months ago, we were recommending to people, set your goals and your strategy for 3 months. Because we said, 3 months is enough time that if there are any different spikes in the news cycle or different things that happen, it will level out. Well, it's a new ballgame now. So it's actually more needed for people to review and shift more frequently with what's going on. So I would say look at your evaluation period maybe being a month and a half to 2 months as opposed to 3 months to see how you're performing. That's the best part of social media. It's a try and continue, try and continue, try and adapt mode. So again, this is just the first shot out the gate you're going to try. Okay, social content. So people want information about you. They want to learn more about you. Sometimes they want information about the end sale, but not necessarily. Awareness stage content, nearly 1 in 5 people preferred graphics and images, and 17% preferred videos. So that's where entertaining posts, inspiring posts are really very useful. So if you take a look at it here, this just gives you a little bit of an idea. And I want to point this out. The last one here is produced and edited photos. Now, certainly when you're on Instagram, you want your photos to look nice because Instagram is a highly visual platform. However, people don't want overproduced, buttoned up on social media. They want authenticity. They want, familiarity. They want to learn more about you. Okay, so this just talks a little bit about content categories. So when you're getting ready to do content, are you just going to write about anything? This is a great way to narrow it down to not be overwhelmed. And what we suggest is coming up with content categories. And so having 4 to 5 content categories that you could have a lot of different types of posts in underneath. So it could be behind the scenes with staff. It could be industry related news. And there could be a variety of different types of posts below that. But what this helps you to do is focus in your content and do that. One thing I want to point out here is ask your team, ask your employees for any additional ideas. One of the stats, and it'll come up here a little bit later, but employees as advocates or influencers has been a very popular trend. People love to see your team members on social media doing what they do, learning more about them. This is one of my most favorite examples to give. We could post an article on Facebook, on how to DIY an email. And we think, wow, this is going to be great. It's going to be really quick steps. This is going to help people. The post with me at a service day with an axe gets more interaction than that educational post. And so that shows you that people want to see your employees out and about doing what they're doing. We love Google Sheets as a collaboration tool. It's a really great way to go ahead and work on that content together. So this is where it is. I love this. And again, this is from the Sprout Social Index in 2017. People want honest, friendly, and helpful. Those are the top 3. They're not worried about being trendy or funny right out the gate. They want honest, friendly, and helpful. They really want that authenticity. So really think about how can you be building a relationship. And I will say, social media is a tremendous tool in the virtual landscape that we are living in right now, that we are able, when we can't get together with people in person, with potential clients at networking events or all these other things, that we have this tool that we can use. Pop over here to the worksheet. So again, this is where you can work on your goals. Here's where you can brainstorm your categories and go ahead and write those down. And then you can also add your hashtags on this sheet, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So here are just a couple of examples of content categories. So maybe you have an event promotion, an entertaining post, an informational post. These are just some really basic categories. And we gave you a couple of different platforms. Inspirational, motivational Mondays are really popular for a reason. And I will tell you, we get a ton of interaction. We are always posting some sort of inspirational quote on Monday, and that's usually, more often than not, eliciting a response from people. And then we get two more examples of informational posts here. All right, hashtags. I can't see everybody, but I was like, who here is confused by hashtags? Again, I think hashtags is one of those areas. One of the things I love when I'm talking about marketing and in general is simplifying things and just making it easier to understand. Hashtags are simply a filter. They're a way to filter content by areas of interest. So it's a bunch of phrases and it connects content across all the different platforms. So if you're here, if you're very close to Baltimore, some people might be further out, but think about your community or your region. What are some hashtags that are related geographically to where you are? What are some industry hashtags? And then what are some trend hashtags? And you can use these sources at the bottom to look at current trending hashtags. Hashtagify.me, hashtags.org, and display purposes. So what it means, if I do a hashtag Charm City on maybe a service day we're doing and we're out and about doing something, then if somebody clicks on it, they're going to see other content that people posted and tagged as Charm City. And you can follow a hashtag. So it's a great way, if it's a topic or something people are interested in, people can go ahead and follow that hashtag. So again, you can keep it very simple. You can look at your industry, see what some tags are, but it's a way for additional people to find your content. Okay, so this is a sample content calendar. This it's a little dated, but what I like about it is it's very simple to give you an idea. This was for a volunteer organization I was with, and you can always click on this link to take a look at it. But basically, we decided that every Monday was an action day, every Tuesday, oh, that's a throwback Thursday, sorry, and a legacy Friday. So every day had a theme. So we just picked our content categories and we assigned it to a day. So Monday might be motivational Monday, Wednesday was action Wednesday, throwback Thursday, legacy Friday. At Red Start, we do motivational Mondays, and then on Tuesdays, we do Tip Tuesdays, where we are typically posting Facebook Live video content, which is almost like a minuscule webinar that we'll post, but we'll do different things across all of those platforms. And again, it shows you, here's the channel that you're going to post on, here's the image that you're going to use, and then on Instagram, you've got the content and the image, and then you have it on Twitter as well. So again, this is just done in Google Sheets. And it's really helpful, especially if you have multiple people working on that content with you. It's really very helpful for you to plug in and collaborate on a document that way. We do have in here, again, here are the monthly themes that you would have generated. And we love this to brainstorm content. This is what we use with our own clients. So you're thinking, well, I don't know what I'm so struck about social media. So here's a great list of things to go through. What events are happening? What timely news? What photos? Any events from the past month, their photos? What are some ideas for a blog? What should we include in the newsletter? Let's celebrate some wins. So spotlight an employee, a volunteer, a board, a staff member, and then who can you tag? And then are there any cross branding or cross promotion opportunities? So again, this is 3 pages to help you generate content. So if we talk about all the worksheets we've looked at so far, we've talked about brainstorming industry themes, brainstorming content pillars, brainstorming monthly themes. So you kind of have that overall work for the year that you would sit down and you would do on the worksheets up until a certain point. Then when you're ready to write the monthly content, you would jump in here. So really everything prior to page prior to page 8. So 1 through 7 is all set up. So if you work through pages 1 through 7, you probably need about 2 hours to work through that. That's going to take a little bit of time, but the whole idea is your framework is set. So then now each month you can sit down, hopefully you can do this questionnaire, and you can rack out your couple of posts a week, you know, in an hour or two. So that's kind of how we've generated, that's the why behind the structure that we've done. So you can go ahead and do those questions. And then again, here's just an example as well, just like the Google Sheet. What date, what social channel, what's the content, hashtags, and image. So this just gives you a way that you can go ahead and plan this out. Okay, so once you've planned it all out, it's time to have the rubber meet the road, I like to say. So once you've scheduled it, you're going to go ahead and release it. And an important note on that, we schedule all of our content out for a month in advance. Well, 2.5 months ago, we realized pretty quickly that some of our scheduled content was going to have to change. And we went in very quickly in Sprout, and anything that was an event, we took it from a scheduled post and we moved it into draft mode. So we did that across the board for all of our clients. The other thing that I do is we have a month of content scheduled, but every Friday morning, I sit down and I look at the content for the next week and I say, is it still relevant? Is there something else we should be talking about? So the idea of scheduling the content for a month in advance is consistency. So you want to be consistent, and that's why we say post 3 to 4 times a week. There was a while where I was even saying a month or so ago, maybe post 5 times a week if there's a lot happening you need to update people on. But at least posting 3 to 5 times a week, and then you have your baseline. That doesn't mean you can't post over top of it when other things happen. It just means you're showing Facebook and your audience, I'm here, I'm consistent, and I'm always going to show up. And what that's going to do is that's going to help your posts to be seen more. So again, the whole idea of scheduling content a month in advance is being consistent, because that's going to help your Facebook presence. If you are consistent and you drop off the face of a cliff and you don't post anything for 2 months, it's really hard to get back up again with that consistency. So again, keep showing up. And then when things happen, for example, you can go ahead and post that in addition to what you have scheduled. So I hope that makes sense on content. Okay, great. So we're going to talk about getting it out there. So you're going to go ahead, you're going to schedule your content, and you're going to determine what's that review period. Are you going to review it are you going to review a month and a half of content, 2 months, 3 months? What are you going to go ahead and do? We're still reviewing quarterly. We find a quarterly review is really helpful to look at both our social analytics and our Google analytics. And you can go ahead and get all this different insight on it. And then you can go back and say, did I hit these goals that I set? Did I increase in these different areas? And then you're going to go ahead, if you find that, you know, maybe you started your posting the timing of the day, maybe you did 8 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, and 8 at night. And for some reason, you're seeing a spike in views at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Maybe when people are getting tired at the end of the workday, you can go ahead and do that. And Clay, it looks like you froze. I want to make sure you can still hear me. Can you still hear me? Did I get a little bumpy?
I can still hear you. My
Okay.
camera might have gone out for a second there, but you're still good.
Great. Okay, good. Well, sometimes I have a backup that runs in the background and I can't turn it off right now. And sometimes that causes problems with my internet. So good. Okay, great. So again, you're going to go ahead and you're going to look at those analytics, and you're going to look at different things like posting time. You're going to look at when are you getting the most views? When are you getting the most engagement? And I would say people were probably seeing very unique trends over the last 2 months that differed from the previous 3 to 6 months. And I think we're going to see different trends in the next 3 months than we would have seen over the last 3 months. So the great thing about social media is you can always jump in, you can always look at your analytics, and you can always adapt. It's not a set it and forget it. It's a very important thing. And so you want to set aside kind of that hour a month to get your content going and scheduling it. You want to have a little bit of time every week, not a lot. I mean, maybe 5 to 10 minutes a day just to respond to comments, to make sure you're addressing anything. And then schedule, you know, maybe an hour or two every quarter to go ahead and look at your progress, to look at how things are going, maybe with your social media team, or maybe with some additional people in the organization. Oh, good. Thanks, George. I'm glad this is informative. I love speaking. I mean, I love speaking and educating where I can, but I really like it in person because you can see everybody's faces and have the interaction. So if things are resonating with you, that's great. Chime in on that. If things are a little confusing and you need more clarification, please do that as well. So here are a couple of ways you can modify your content strategy if you need to. And this is the big one. I mean, maybe you need to switch your platform. You know, maybe there's been a shift. I think what's really funny, and I'm paying attention to this, I remember somebody asked me about TikTok maybe 3.5 months ago, and I was like, nah, we'll see what it does. Well, TikTok is now a contender. So I think we're gonna have to see, you know, how people are reaching people on TikTok. And I think it's having a moment that it may not have been otherwise. And I think we're going to have to see, are there ways that, you know, there's going to be, is it going to be monetized by advertisements? Are there way people are going to do different on things to promote brands, different things like that? But I definitely think it is much more of a contender than I thought it was going to be. You know, do you need to increase or modify your posting frequency? One of the reasons we recommend 3 to 5 times a week is not everybody is going to see every post you do. Again, Facebook has this ever-changing algorithm, and you could post 4 times in a week, and somebody might only see 1 to 2 of those posts. Somebody else might see a different 1 to 2 of those posts. So really important just to keep that in mind as you're doing that. This is really important. Analyze your voice. Is it relating to people? Oop, lost my earbud. Is it relating to people? Are people getting it? And maybe you need to make some tweaks in there. And then looking at your content. Does it need to be a little bit more visual to get better engagements? I will say one thing that Facebook does really well is it monitors, you know, the habits of individuals that are on Facebook. And so my husband loves to watch videos on Facebook. He really does. And the animal videos, like, so in his Facebook feed, animal videos will always pop up because it knows he's consistently engaging with those animal videos. So if Facebook sees that somebody is consistently engaging with your content, then your post will show up more consistently in their feed. And that shows great engagement. So just a little bit of an overview on all of this. And again, the whole goal of today is just keep it really simple. Don't overthink it, post consistently, make sure you've got great visuals. I do want to share, and I hope it's in here somewhere, canva.com. It's canva.com. Excellent place to create your social media graphics if you don't have graphic tools internally. It's one of the best tools I've seen. Again, schedule a minimum an hour a week just to kind of review the content, and that can be broken out into small spurts over the day. Again, play around, do an 8, a 12, and a 7 to see. Go ahead and adapt. You know, and rotate the types of your content here. So video is huge. Video is really, really huge on Facebook, big time. And I want to talk about, really briefly, I want to talk about Facebook Live. And again, if anybody wants to chime in on the chat, if they have done Facebook Live before, what they thought about it. Facebook Live gets really great engagement rates, and it isn't even necessarily at the first view. A lot of times it can be repeat views. So we found Facebook Live to be a very powerful tool for us to do. And when you're doing a Facebook Live, practice a little bit, practice your speaking, practice your talking, a couple of things like that. However, you don't need to be fully professional lit. Certainly make sure people can see your face. Certainly make sure you have a nice background, but it doesn't have to be rehearsed. It doesn't have to be a script. Again, it's that authenticity that people really, really love. Okay, again, just up to 30, just best practices for Instagram, up to 30 hashtags on Instagram. Use great photos. That's really, really important on Instagram. Use the location feature on Instagram. I think that's a really great one as well. If you're tagging a location, that's great. A lot of times we would do our Facebook Lives at whatever location we were at. We would tag that location as well. And for Instagram, play with Instagram stories. If you are on Instagram as your platform, you know, experiment and see how some things work there. I do have Canva on here, great. So this is just some overviews on how to create graphics, some overviews on different types of Instagram posts. And again, here's just a little bit of an overview on that content creation. So that's social media. I want to just address email very briefly. But again, anybody can jump in if they have questions on social media. Because again, that was the bulk of the presentation today for sure.
We just got a question from Jason. So is there something like a LinkedIn Live? Is there a live feature for LinkedIn that we should be taking advantage of?
There is a video feature on LinkedIn, and I don't think there is a LinkedIn Live, but I feel like I've heard chatter about it. And I've definitely seen an uptick in the use of video on LinkedIn. Certainly not as much as on Facebook, but you know, the power of voice is really impactful. So when people can hear your voice, when people can see your face, and again, we're going to see really interesting trends, because I think it's even more reason now that we're going to see a boost in LinkedIn videos and videos elsewhere, because we're all doing Zoom calls now, right? Instead of phone calls, and we're doing Zoom calls instead of face-to-face meetings. So I think we're going to see more and more video for personal interaction. So really quick, because I think some people are popping off because they probably had about an hour today. I just want to do a quick note on email. Again, we consider the 3 parts of digital marketing like 101 to be new website content, social media, and your email. Email differences and needs are going to be different across all organizations. So you might have a plan that's very specific to you and that works. A retail location is going to have many more emails than a marketing organization like me, for example. And my organization, we typically do 1 email a month. However, we did a free webinar series. So we were sending our standard email newsletter a month, but we were sending 2 more email newsletters about this event. So it can go up and down, but just to get your baseline, it's really great just to start to build an email list and to communicate with people at least on a monthly basis, and to be consistent in showing up in there. And there's a lot of email platforms out there. We love MailChimp because if you are building your list, it is free for up to 2,000 people. And not only that, their free version is almost everything that their paid version has. You can do A/B testing of subject lines. You can actually set up automations now in your free, and they have implemented a CRM component in MailChimp as well. So MailChimp has really upped their game. So when you're doing an email newsletter, once a month, think about your main article. Get this, you don't have to write new content, because all we did was talk about writing content so far. So we're going to repurpose it. So you're going to take whatever that main article was that you wrote for that news story on your blog that you wrote, that can headline your email newsletter. Whether it's an event coming up, something happening in your industry, repurpose that content, post a little bit of it, and link it back to your website. The other thing is make sure your email when you're creating it, just that it's a single column. So you can have one main article and then maybe 2 to 3 little blurbs in it. But don't worry about doing a sidebar anymore because people read emails on their phone so much. So we recommend doing one main article, which is repurposing what you have, and then doing 2 or 3 supporting blurbs below it. And that could be a bunch of things. It could be an upcoming event. It could be linking over. Say you had a great social post and there was a lot of great discussion. You could link back to that. But you could link to an event posted on your website. You could link to a service on your website. Again, you want to, when you can, use that email to link back to your website. And this just keeps it really, really simple. Brainstorm some email headlines, and there you go. You have your email. So again, your email, you don't want to be reinventing the wheel and writing brand new content. A lot of times we'll see people that will write these lengthy, amazing articles for their email newsletter. And we say, that's awesome. Please put that on your website because that's going to have great content in there. Again, when people are searching for things, that's going to boost that organic SEO that you have. So I'm going to take a breath. We went through a lot of content, a lot of information. Again, you all will get these slides, you will get these worksheets. Oh, and just to show you, here's the link to, and I did add in, I don't think I added the 2020, but if you go to the Sprout Social website, you can get it. But lots of information here for resources. So I would love to answer any questions. Feel free to ask questions that are specific to you. I certainly don't mind doing that at all.
We have one from Tammy. Tammy's asking, she's curious to see if you've found that there's a basic time of day that is best to post on the different social media platforms.
Yes, so I think that is going to be one of those things. You can start with generalities and then you can go ahead and adapt based upon your audience. And we probably have a really wide variety of client base of everybody on this webinar today. So what I would say is generally start with morning, midday, and evening, and you can play with that, right? Because the whole idea is before work, lunch break, end of work. But there might be, sometimes with some people, we see spikes. Like when we were doing Facebook Live, we noticed we had a huge spike of people reading our Facebook content at 4 in the afternoon. And for a while, we were trying to do the Facebook Live at 4, and then I was like, this is super inconvenient for me. So we do it sometime in the Tuesday timeframe, but then we tend to get more views in the afternoon. So I would go in and look at your analytics. If you have it set up, see when you're finding the most engagement time of day and try that out. But just as a general rule, and sometimes some people might say, 6 a.m. I would say, like, as an example, if it was like a fitness, I don't know, if you were like a gym or a fitness company or something like that, I would do like 6 a.m., maybe 6 a.m., sure, the lunchtime, but maybe not 8 p.m., maybe 7 p.m. Because as a general, again, you're making some assumptions, but sometimes people that are super into fitness, they tend to be early risers because they're getting up to do their workouts early. So if that's something you know about your audience, that might, or, they're not necessarily going to be on Facebook at 11 p.m. at night. But if your audience might be creatives, right? They might be up late at night. I noticed somebody just in a Facebook group last night, she posted something around 11 or 12 o'clock at night and said, let's have some late night fun. And it was just a question game. And it was just a great way for her engage. And that's a great example, actually. She's a photographer who's unable to do her business right now, but she's cultivating a group online. She's providing them with weekly content of speakers. She's at least posting conversational threads in there a couple times a day. And I will tell you, the engagement is amazing in there. And again, this is within a Facebook group.
Great. I don't see any questions in the chat. I'll double check the email. We've got a lot of big, good shout outs for us. Tammy said, this was an extremely informative, helpful webinar. So thanks.
Great. Well, my goal is that everybody's leaving this today and you all feel empowered. You can go do this yourself. This is a full-on DIY, webinar, workshop, whatever you want to call it, that you can actually take these. We've broken it down very simply. Yes, these are processes we do with our own clients, but we've broken it down so you can go ahead and do it yourself. So I think that's really, really important, to give it a try, see how it goes. But to know that, yes, there's a second level of digital marketing where we could drill down into some crazy stuff. But let's get the baseline first, right? And this is something that everybody can do. So that's my hope, that everybody can leave here today and feel empowered to go and do this themselves, and really be communicating with your clients and your audience through this crazy time. Again, it's a tremendous tool to be able to use. And I will say, Clay, that if a question pops up afterwards, please email me. I'm always happy to point people to resources or help out.
Definitely. And we will provide this recording via email tomorrow morning along with the slides. So Jason just asked, is this available now? Not quite, but it will be available soon. We'll email it to you.
Almost done.
Yeah.
It's almost done.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. And again, I wish you the best of luck. Again, people want to hear from you. This is about awareness and consideration. And the other thing that I said, people have been concerned about what should they post during this kind of turbulent time. As long as it's coming from the heart and a good intentions, think about that. Is this well-intentioned, what I'm doing? Great. Go ahead and post it. I think don't be hesitant to have that conversation. Don't go radio silent for people.
Rebecca, you are pure genius. And one of the things I love is your information is so relatable. Every business owner should know and go through this. The value is either if I'm hiring a second party, if I'm managing a team, I'm more informed to have a strengthened conversation and oversight and responsibility. So you are amazing. As Clay said, we'll get this posted as quickly as possible. And Rebecca, I also want to thank you, because one of the things when you look at BBB, we have 3 standards: advertise honestly, tell the truth, transparency, be transparent. You clicked on 3 of our 8 standards. So you won my heart as best BBB accredited business today. I'll pass that baton to you. So thank you for that as well. Just a quick reminder to everybody that BBB will be hosting a webinar, and I'm looking to make sure I have the dates right. Wednesday, May 20th, 11 p.m. 11 a.m.
That would be a late webinar.
Yeah, I know. Katz Abosch will be picking up again on a quick overview of where we are on funding opportunities, an update on those, details on tax relief, cash flow. Those of you who have received any of the grants or loans, beginning to look at your cash flow, your labor strategy. So that is available on our website to register for. On Thursday, we do joining with other BBBs to do an event, a webinar on at 3 p.m. our time on mental health during COVID. So we have, over the course of the next 2 weeks, we'll be talking about brand. Clay, help me remember a couple of others.
IRS sort of virtual.
Yeah, receivables. There's a couple others. Anyway, follow us, check our website for more webinars. Rebecca, you are amazing. I'm sending you a huge virtual hug. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for being part of our BBB family. Tim Hollandshade, you give us great delight every webinar and watching the garage. It's one of my most favorite things is to see Hollandshade doing his business. So thank you guys so much. Look forward to seeing y'all later on at the next webinar. Rebecca, amazing.
Thanks, Angie. Bye.